So welcome everybody to another Q&A. I'm joined again by the brilliant Matt Savage and Cole Price. So I ran another Instagram poll, got a bunch of questions to go through, and we're going to get right into them. So question one, how to get through the era of self-doubt? Cole, do you want to go first, or Matt? Any takers?
You never. It's you never get through that. Honestly, it's every day. I don't know about you guys, but it's every day. I just like, yeah, I'm crap. I look at my stuff and I'll finish a piece and I'll go, it's not too bad. And like 2 minutes later, that's crap. Yeah. And what am I doing? Why have I got a job when there's so many good people around? Yeah. It never ends. Never ends.
Yeah, I don't know if I said something similar on the last Q&A, but I just to echo what Cole said, it's always there. When you're doing a piece of work, it's like that. It's just this is great. No, it's not. I think. I mean, I'm always saying things like this, but I think you just get used to it, and you can silence the voice a bit more when you get a bit more experience. But the voice is always nagging at you
Yeah,
every
it's
day.
it's kind of a good thing, I think, if it's there because it helps push you to get better.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I think we had a similar question I think last time, and yeah, it's never going to go away. You kind of got to accept it, and you just can't let that self doubt stop you from sharing your work and continuing to create work. Like it's yeah, I think understand too that everybody is in the same position as we all just gave evidence for. So yeah, just keep creating, keep putting your stuff out there because it's going to be there. And like I'm sure it's the same thing for other people, for even like directors or production designers or whatever field it is. I'm
Oh,
sure.
if not worse.
Yeah,
I think that the higher the up the tree you go, the bigger your exposure and the further to fall. So it's just, I think you're right. It's only human to feel that way, and if you don't feel that way, I think that's a bigger issue with your
I
psychology.
totally agree. Yeah,
yeah,
if you don't have that sort of self doubt, then you're in the wrong space. If you think you're amazing, that's pretty damn
Yeah,
worrying.
yeah. That's what I was going to
Um,
yeah,
say. If you're patting yourself on the back, being like, yeah, man, look how good my work is, then there's a bit
yeah,
of an ego that probably needs to be checked, and you're probably not going to
yeah,
try to challenge or test yourself or try to improve as well, and so you'll
yeah.
eventually just maybe just get lost. Cool. I think that's some good answers. Let's go to question number two. How to be fast? Is it practice, experience, preparation? Matt, do you want to go first on this one?
it's all three. It's definitely experience. If I look at what I can do in a day now compared to when I began, even though the technology is wildly different, I think when you have your internal workflow, because I'm very regimented with a task. I'm research, sketching, ideation, finish model, and you get into that regimented workflow. So it's experience and I guess knowing what works and what doesn't work. Speed's a funny thing because we all get hung up on speed, and whenever we're all on a job and we see how much someone's done in a day, speed is kind of a paranoia-inducing aspect, but I think it needs to be your friend as well.
Absolutely. Cole?
Coffee.
Yeah.
Drink as much coffee as you
Just
can.
coffee?
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting one. For me, it's just having a pipeline that I'm completely used to, and I know that it works, and I know what I'm capable of doing in that pipeline, and kicking stuff out that way. So, and it just becomes, I think, like Matt was saying there, it just becomes like almost like a routine. Um, and again, experience as you get more and more years into this, and you get used to doing stuff, and how far you need to go on a shot, how far you don't need to go, all that sort of is there, and it just kicks in, and it's just like I suppose like any other job, the more you do, the more experience you get. Um, but yeah, for me, it's probably just having a pipeline that I'm really comfortable with, um, and it's just like bang, get it done, out the door, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think there's like this, maybe there's this misconception as well. Like I know when I was trying to break into, there was a big trend of like speed paintings and how
Mm.
fast people could
Yeah.
do things, and that used to really intimidate me before I was working in the industry. And I used to try and rush my drawings or rush my paintings, rush all of my designs, and I found like I wasn't getting anywhere. And it's not until you actually slow down and think about what you're doing, because the more you actually slow down and put care and craft into your work over time, all that experience builds up and you naturally get faster at what you do because you find more efficient ways to do things. And when you're working with, you almost need to also work with an array of different clients and different jobs to develop that speed, because every project's going to be different, and you kind of have to test almost different methods and different ways of working to kind of find, like what you guys said, your pipeline and what's the best way to approach, designing for a film or a game.
I think there's also a myth of that being artistic has to be fast, and like I remember that speed painting sort of when it was really popular in the kind of the mid to late 2000s, and it was like, creativity is this and that, but creativity is also structure and having your workflow, and there are different ways of getting there, and not every workflow has to be this incredibly speedy thing, like you said. And the irony is, if you do your workflow often and well, then you do get fast anyway. So I think you just have to. The speed is a paranoia-inducing thing, and you have to not
Yeah,
worry
yeah.
about it too
And
much.
on my early jobs too, like I used to torture myself to try and get something looking polished in a day, just because I thought that that's what you had to do. And then you realize after a certain amount of time, like you're going to get changes to your work. And like a lot of our clients, we've spoken about this before, don't actually want to see polished things. You want to actually, we
Yeah.
spoke about it, Matt, in your podcast as well from a while ago, that you can scare them off and you almost want to invite your
Hmm.
production designer or director into the conversation and allow them to, have input. So almost with that note on its own, you can kind of slow down and relax and realize that everything is kind of a work in progress.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Let's get to question number 3. How to read the production designer's vision and expectation.
Oh my
No,
god, you
but
got a
that's
crystal
like
ball.
it's like speed dating or meeting anyone new, any kind of relationship. Like
Yeah,
you don't that you everyone's individual, and you just have to. That's based on your own personal skills, because they
yeah.
every one of them will want something different. Some of them will want finished visuals. Some of them will want work in progress, problem solving sketches. Um, you just have to become a little bit of a social chameleon, I guess, and get used to. Like, because I've been on a job now for a couple of months, my next job will be completely different, and the first week will be a shock because I'll have to realign myself to what they want you to do. Um, no answer. That's just experience and working with different people.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. It's like you have to be this people person, which is kind of ironic considering the state of most of our mental health is as being artists. We pretty much hide away in a dark room and don't really want to speak to people and just draw spaceships, etc. But then you have to have the conversations with your production designer, and you have to build up that relationship, which it will take time. It will take a couple of weeks before you start getting into that rhythm, and they need just as much. They need to get to know you as well, and how you work and so forth. And you know, yeah, it's like I think sometimes you just You just have to go for it. You need a crystal ball because, like Matt said, every job you do is completely different. Every person is completely different. Because it's not only that as well. You could be working with the same PD and you could ask actually for different stuff because he's working with a different director, or he's working with a different VFX crew who again may need to have different things, different inputs. So yeah, I think Matt's absolutely spot on there. You've got to be this sort of social chameleon, and again, that's just something that comes down in experience. Is just getting to know how to, talk to people, listen to what they say, because that's a difficult thing to do as well. Is to listen, and especially if you're with a new production designer, is get your head around listening to them and what they want, because you don't know these people, so they can go off and talk the talk, and they can mean something completely different, so again, it's just a question of suck and see, I suppose,
Yeah, and don't forget too, like the production designer is also trying to figure out what the director wants as well. Like every time they're working with someone new as well, and they're trying to figure out the director's expectations. But the one thing I will say too is don't be afraid to ask questions. Like ask your production designer, what do you expect and when do you expect it by? Sometimes something I used to do too earlier on in my career, because I was, a lot more nervous and not as confident, I would actually bring up my portfolio on, like a first Zoom call, and I would be like, is this kind of good for, a couple of days work? Like, would you be happy if I gave you like a bunch of sketches that looked like this? And it was great. Like I was just straight down the line. They understood where I was coming from. And you just get rid of sometimes those expectations if you got something to show, or if you just be direct. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. I think people get afraid to just do that in this day and age.
I think that's a really, really good point, Nick. And I've done the exact same thing with a couple of jobs doing vehicles where I've said, I've shown the PD or the art director like loose sketches and said, this is kind of what I would do on a first day. I would give you some mood boards. And I think like you say, you're removing that expectation. And then the worst thing you can do is surprise a production designer in a bad way. Because they have enough on their plate, and I've surprised them before with stuff in a bad way, and you can just see the color drain from their face. So if you can, and you only have to ease them into that relationship, and they're easing you, and you're easing them into it. So it's only to begin with, and then it gets okay. So no, I think that's a really good point.
Shall we keep moving? All right. Yeah, this one, Cole. You'll know this question. Do you world build in your head when you sleep at night?
Yes, constantly. It's a bit of a nightmare. I am always, even when I'm working. In fact, it's worse when I'm working, because you're already in that sort of creative flow, and then more ideas happen, and you're like, oh my god, I need to get that down, or you'll finish work and you're trying to switch off and you're trying to watch TV or whatever, and all you've got is stuff coming into your head. I'm a complete waste of space when it comes to stuff like that. Yeah, it's a nightmare.
You, Matt, do you completely switch off after work, or like are you thinking about things when you go to sleep or when you wake up?
I switch off like a baby these days. turn it all off. I used to do a lot more, but these days, no. I make sure I read for a good half hour before I go to bed, and I at the moment, I think because at the level I'm working, I can walk away. If I was in a more senior position, I'd bring it home, but. So quite luckily, I'm in a really busy time in my life with family and kids, and now I'm like,
forced to switch off. Yeah, I was similar in a sense. It depends on what stage of my career. Earlier on, I would just be thinking about it, waking up in the middle of the night, having to write things down, stressing. But over the last couple of years, I've learned to switch off, I think. But it also depends on what phase of the project we're in. Like earlier on at the start of a job, like I can't help it. Like I can't shut down. Like I'm constantly thinking about things, because you want to get to that point where you're not, I guess it is impress whoever it is you're working for, because you don't want to get fired. So you're constantly thinking about design solutions and just wanting to make a good first impression.
To be fair,
I
on
think
Romulus, I was thinking about it all the time. That I was obsessing in unhealthily, in an unhealthy way. But right now, not so much.
the problem I have is it's not actually work. So it's not the job you're on. It's other stuff that comes in, which is why I do, the personal work. It's just like a flood all the time, and it's just like get it down, get it down, get it down. And like I said, when you're working on a project, you can get stuff that's completely different that just comes out of left field, and that's the worst thing that I have is just that constant, in my head all the time and trying to get stuff down. I think I've got issues.
Nah, you've shown though that you can channel it into work. Some people just think but they don't do, but you're one of the few that can actually just keep pumping ideas out. So kudos to you, Cole. What's your favorite candy?
I mean, I like all of it. I'm trying to think of a specifically.
That was a real question, Cole. I got that as a
Yeah.
request.
What was the quick candy?
What's your favorite candy? I think
Oh,
though
I
in
don't
America
think-
too, candy covers chocolate,
Like
which
chocolate
here in
and
Australia we
sweet.
find it
Nah.
bizarre. Like
No.
candy's like hard lollies, but
Yeah,
I,
we'd say hard candy, which
yes. For me it's just a 70% dark chocolate. That's my answer.
Yeah, I can do the 90% dark chocolate stuff.
Nice.
That's
hardcore.
pretty nice. But I don't do anything like that. Oh my God, me with sugar? You kidding me? That's a
We're
me
creating six
sugar
personal
coffee.
pieces a day.
That's just asking for trouble.
Okay. Can you each name the one artist that you feel is the main source of inspiration for your work?
Dead easy. Ron Cobb. Endlessly useful. I love he's super problem solving, industrial, but then there's irreverence and a sense of humor and political and social commentary in his work. I'm very fond of his work because I remember my teachers at school telling me that job didn't exist, and then I found his work in Alien, and it was evidence that job absolutely did exist. So, yeah, Ron Cobb every time.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I don't have one. I have a couple of them, all from like the same era. So it would be there's a guy called Jim Burns. Absolutely unbelievable artwork, just mind blowing. And growing up, I had a few of his books. So there would be Jim Burns, there would be Chris Foss, and also Sid Mead. I mean, those three, mind blowing, absolutely mind blowing. All for completely different reasons. You look at Chris Foss for colour, Sid Mead for design. Jim Burns' composition is like, oh my God. There's a really, really cool book of his called Light Ships, and it's all like acrylic and it's airbrushed and it's like, back like 70s, 80s sci-fi stuff. Wow. I still look at that book and think, how the hell did you do that stuff? How did you get it looking, that good? It's just amazing, amazing. All that era for me is just like that's my candy. Is that stuff? Yeah.
True, that's a good answer for the candy.
How about you,
Yeah,
Nick?
yeah. For me, it's I have to say two because they're two kind of different, same era as well. John Harris and Sid Mead.
Yeah.
So Sid Mead definitely leaning into the more design thinking and kind of resolving things. Like I always loved. I'd get so excited seeing his working drawings and his rough sketches and like his sections and his elevations, and that's the kind of stuff that really excited me, especially, when I was learning architecture. And then the completely painterly, fantastical side of things with John Harris, like the way he just thought about these mind-blowing ideas, and like the storytelling within his artwork and the atmosphere and the energy was the other thing that really captivated me. And I think if my job wasn't so design heavy, I would love to do that stuff more of a job if it existed, but everything's quite design heavy at the moment. So yeah, they're
John
mine
Harris,
too.
John, what a lovely guy. John
We're
Harris
lucky we
is.
got to meet him.
Honestly, he was so nice. An absolute legend. Yeah, I mean his stuff is like, off the charts.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
Yeah, that whole era, they're on a pedestal. Like they're
Yeah.
above anything that you would see in this day and age. Okay, we'll keep moving forward. This one's kind of aimed a little bit more at me, but I'm sure you guys could help me out. How could an architect make his way into production design? So I don't really have an answer because I'm not a production designer, but I could give a resource on Emmanuel Shu and Jan Urschel's podcast. I've forgotten the production designer for Fantastic Four: First Steps. Well, I've forgotten his name, but anyway, they interviewed him, so that's a really good resource because he was not an architect, but he was I don't actually know if he was an architect. Maybe he was. I'm not sure. But he was a concept artist, and then he wanted to become a production designer. So then he moved into doing art directing to understand that side of the field more, and eventually making his way to becoming a production designer. But to take a step back, there's a whole side of production design that I'm not privileged to, but I've seen architects. There's a lot of architects that have become production designers, and I think like you're already taught in a really great way to have a good foundation for how to get things built, because essentially that's what they're trying to do a lot of the time as well. Do you guys have some thoughts on that?
I think you need to get into the art department. You need to you need to do what you did, Nick, and sort of get in touch with art directors and work your way up. Even on really low budget stuff, like you're more likely to become a designer on a low budget horror movie, and just because the stakes are a bit lower. So you have to do what we've all done and start making the calls, and you're not gonna get that job straight away. So you're gonna have to get onto a movie in a lower capacity to work out how that hierarchy works.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with both of you. It's like get into the art department. I think probably the best route is becoming an art director and learning it from that side. Because that's what really tends to happen is people go from being the art director position, and then they get given an opportunity to become a PD, and it seems to be a more logical route and a more accepted route than, say, for example, someone like myself. If I was trying to do it, I've got that whole other world to learn, which I think is far more difficult coming from an illustrative background. I think the architectural world is going to give you that little bit of an edge because you've already got that, spatial awareness and design and that type of stuff. That's going to help massively when you've got to build sets, design sets, all that type of stuff. It's
Yeah, it's
definitely just get in the art department.
And like, if we give you an example, like on the film that I'm on now, I think there's like two set designers, like I've just noticed in their signatures when they're asking for models, like a Bachelor of Architecture and Masters of Architecture. So like even get yourself into being
Yeah.
a set designer, because
Yeah.
you've already got that great foundation of creating working drawings and getting drawings done for costing and starting to detail things. And just like you both said, then to surround yourself with an art department so you can kind of, catch on to what's happening around you and just become a sponge, really.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's keep moving. How would you go about recommending structuring a portfolio as a recent graduate?
I think you have to be very honest about where you are, and not pretend to be experienced. As a graduate, I think you need to, as we all need to show, you need to show lots of sketches and work in progress. I think a good double page spread in a portfolio is a page of thumbnails and development and a page of a big, lovely finished piece of work, whether that's an environment or a prop. But the big thing, because we're very fortunate to be this far into our careers where we don't necessarily have to prove that we can do those kinds of things. But when you're starting, you do have to show lots of work in progress. The pull is always to just put the really beautiful work in, but I think 50-50 problem solving, work in progress stuff and finished artwork is good, and keep it relatively small. Sprawling portfolios leave people really, really cold. When you or PDFs, if you're emailing it and if it's 50 pages long, they'll get the measure of you after page 3 or 4, pretty much. You want to sell yourself there and keep it. I don't know, Cole. What do you think, page-wise, like under 20?
You know what? It's a tough one. I have a really big problem with portfolios because, it's like you're always trying to please the devil. You can do a portfolio and you can go to one person and they can go, no, we don't like any of this. You can go to another person and they can go, yeah, we like this. Or you go to a studio, say for example, you go to a game studio and they'll say, yeah, well, we want to see more like this. And you can go to someone the week later, no, we want to see something more like this. And it just becomes this perpetual, I think people get so riled up with the needs that they feel they have to meet. I agree with Matt where, rough stuff sketches, showing working out, showing composition, yeah, they're great. But I would also say, do what you love. Don't try and be pleasing everyone because it just becomes impossible. It's no good doing a load of stuff that looks like The Last of Us and then going to a game studio that's a racing game. Just stop trying to how can I put it? I see this a lot. Oh, I'm going to get burned for this now. Apologies, I'm going to get burned for this. But it's like
Nobody's listening, Cole. It's all right.
Yeah. You see when you have people that do fan art, and they want to get a job in this particular thing, and it's just ream after ream, and you think, for God's sake, you've got talent. Stop doing that and do something original. I remember when I used to hire people, I would be more interested in, I could hire someone on one image if it was original and it spoke to me and I went, wow, that's the guy. And to be honest, I've never been proven wrong in that. I've always gone with my instincts and gone, that's the guy. And he's come in and he's been absolutely brilliant because he's done his own stuff. You see it, oh my God, you see it on ArtStation where graduation year comes round and it's the same from all over the world. You can see this influx of, say for example, Chinese artists who are incredible, but it's all the same stuff because their graduation stuff is all the same themes, and people just put this all the same stuff out and you think to yourself, just take a step back, do what you love, and get good at doing what. If you love creatures, then do creatures, and get good at it, and have them in your portfolio. If you love doing spaceships, then do spaceships and get good at doing that. But don't try and pander to everyone. You go to these career firms and these conferences, and there's literally table after table after table of people doing portfolio reviews. I guarantee you, every single one of them you will go to, they will say something different. They will look at your portfolio and do something completely different. Oh, we don't like that. Oh, we like that, but we don't like that. Next person, completely different. So I really really feel for students and anyone up and coming that they have to have that minefield of the portfolio. I mean, to be honest, I've never had a CV and I've never had a portfolio. I just dump work that I like and people can take it, and I've been lucky that I've got jobs from doing that, of literally saying I'm not going to try and fall into that sort of conformity. And I think in this day and age, with the amount of AI, with the amount of competition, you've got to be able to show something different and show something that's original and show that you've actually got a brain and not just be copying someone else's style or someone else's game or I'd like to see this in this film. No, stop doing that. Do what you love, because obviously you love something about those things, and channel it into doing something for yourself. That would be my thoughts on that.
That's great advice. And everybody's got a different story and a different path, and that's the whole point. Like, there is no right or wrong way. All you can do is put your best foot forward, and like you said, Cole, do what you're passionate about. And I've spoken about it several times. I'm one of those examples. I'm not going to say it's going to work for everybody, but I wasn't getting any work when I was trying to break in because I was trying to be like Simon Stalenhag and doing stuff for like The Last of Us. And that just wasn't me. I just thought that's what you had to do. And it wasn't until I went back to the architectural roots, just started doing architecture in 3D, resolving spaces that I learned about and I was passionate about, the work started coming in. So hopefully our different takes there help the person that asked that question. We'll keep moving forward because I think we're slowly running out of time. It's another portfolio question, so I might skip that one. We gave enough on that. I don't really know if this applies to us. Can you guys share how do you build pitch decks? I'm not sure what pitch decks. We're not really pitching for anything, so I don't think that really applies to us. Maybe we'll skip that one. Do you guys, unless Cole, have you had to build pitch decks before?
We do them all the time, but I mean, it's kind of a weird question because it's just basically, your pitch deck, it's what you're going to present. If you're pitching a film, pitch decks are a nightmare to do, because again, you never know what people are going to say. I remember when I was working with Simon McQuoid, and we were doing the first Mortal Kombat, and we spent 5 years doing pitches to exec every couple of months, and it was always just a nightmare. It was be like, what are we going to present? Let's take this part of the script and let's do this. Let's do it as some keyframes and and hope for the best. So for doing a pitch deck, it all depends on what your director wants, what the client wants, and it's kind of a bit of an odd question, to be honest.
Because I look at it two ways. Like, if it's a pitch deck, is in like just a presentation deck, like you're presenting to your client, like a production designer or director. Like earlier on in my career, I would put together like a really nice PDF and kind of take them on like a journey of like a bunch of work and like have all the sketches and lead up to like a final piece. So I'd have all of the sketches and thumbnails and then key ideas, key references, and then kind of build up towards like some sort of keyframe or work in progress. But if it's with us when working on films and there's pitch decks, like we're just doing our art and that's just getting put in by somebody else. to present to the studio executives. So yeah, we'll keep going forward. That's another architect. I've tried not to look at the questions, so some of them are a surprise to me as well. What type of technical skill does a young architect have to follow your steps? Okay. Technical skills. It's a tricky one. I guess if you're an architect, you're already going to have that great foundation, like we mentioned before, about designing things to scale, knowing how to produce drawings that explain things spatially. So you're already going to have, a good kit. The thing that I had to develop coming out of architecture was the whole side of the film industry. So understanding like composition, lighting, storytelling within a frame, even just digital painting. I didn't do 3D. I skipped doing 3D for a couple of years and did everything by digitally painting, just so I could kind of understand a bit of color theory and how to paint. Because I found that's really helped me with my drawings too. There might be something that I can't model, or it's going to take too long to model, so it's much quicker to just paint over, a rough 3D block out. So I think that's my answer to that question. I know you guys aren't architects, but anything to add to that, or do you want to keep moving forward? Keep moving forward?
You got that covered.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, to each of you, you're all in the same art department once again. Which movie, universe, or IP, past or present, do you feel you do a great job on or would get the most out of your talents? Then on that given movie, what task would you call dibs on?
It would be like that scene in The Dark Knight when the Joker throws a pool cue on the floor and says there's one spaceship and really.
It's got to be the Smurfs movie, hasn't it, Matt?
Smurfs,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Flintstones again. We can't do Alien because we've done that one.
Yeah. You've done all of our favorite IPs, Matt. Damn you. Blade Runner,
I've been lucky.
Alien.
I mean, the dream is to do. This isn't the question. It's to do an original IP. That's the. I mean, it becomes less and less likely with corporations and the way the studio system works. Apart from Project Hail Mary, there aren't original big budget sci-fi movies coming. So if we'll stick with existing IPs. I'd love to mess around in RoboCop, in that world. I'd love to have a go at Battlestar Galactica. There's a lot of cool things in there to do. I'm trying to think. I mean, IPs are so commonly used now. I can't think of one that hasn't been sort of come up for a while, because executives are always looking at one to use, so they're all being used at the moment. But Judge Dredd would be. I would love if Amazon did a. Okay, yeah. So that's mine. We'll do Judge Dredd. It's an Amazon TV series, big budget, and I'm doing the bike, and I'll fight you all for that.
That's a good one, Matt. That's a good one.
Yeah, Dredd. That's
Yeah.
a good
Come
one.
and fight me for the bike.
No, I'm not going to fight you for the bike. No, I'll just do all the,
Do Mega City 1.
Mega City. Yeah, that'd be really cool.
Yeah,
Really
Cole,
cool.
you can do the Mega
Yeah,
City from the outside, and I can do the inside. There
yeah,
you go. We're
yeah,
sorted.
yeah. Sorted. But Judge Dredd's awesome, man. I mean, any of that stuff, anything from 2008 A would be just like Strontium Dog and all that type of stuff. ABC Warriors would be really cool to do.
Oh
Actually,
yeah. Oh
that'd be
yeah.
really cool. Why hasn't anyone done that? That's just crying out for stuff. I know uh, Duncan Jones has just done
Rogue
Road
Trooper.
Trooper. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Which looks really interesting. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he's done with that. Yeah, 2000 AD would be a really cool.
There's, as you say, every story in 2000 AD would be great.
Yeah,
Do
yeah,
Future Shocks.
yeah.
But the other one, actually thinking, I would love to do, and I don't know why Apple TV haven't done the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy yet,
Mm.
because that works better episodically. I don't think that the film necessarily I don't think you can condense it down into an hour and a half. I think 10 episodes of Hitchhikers would be great, and that would give all of us work for years if they did that.
Yeah, yeah.
I now it would be an absolute crime if they would ever do this because it's my favorite movie and it would be so stupid to redo it because there's nothing wrong with it at all. Is 2001 Space Odyssey. It's like if that didn't exist and they were doing it, I would want to be working on that. Just like from the spaceship interiors and how everything is just so like
Yeah.
clean and rigid and there's like beautiful rhythm and details and just some of the eeriness too of like, you know, the clean monolith form inside of like a weird period looking space with like a sci-fi floor. I think there's some just awesome stuff in that. I would have, if Blade Runner 2049 hadn't come out and, you know, let's just say we heard that they were going to start working on that, that's what I would have wanted to work on. And the same goes with Dune. But, you know, they've had their time now, so I probably wouldn't. I'd still get excited.
On the Dune note, I know Denis Villeneuve was attached to do Rendezvous with Rama, and that
Yeah.
would be.
That would be
I
awesome.
mean, it's one of my favorite books. The descriptions inside are so good. I mean, it's the reading the book is like watching a film anyway, and I mean that would be kind of close to your 2001 aspiration, Nick, because
Yeah.
it's. I mean, it's Arthur C. Clarke again. It's based in pretty good physics and science. Yeah, so I have loads actually. I want to do them all.
Do a whole
Yeah,
episode on just those. That's a good question. I like that question.
yeah.
All right, we're up to the last question. And timely, because I know you boys have got to head off to work. It's your morning. How do you guys, this is an Alex nice question actually. How do you guys see Comfy UI? He didn't ask this question, but he should be answering it. How do you guys see Comfy UI evolving as a serious pre-production tool for film and games over the next 2 to 3 years? Which workflows do you think will become standard in art departments first? Concept generation, design iteration, shot planning, or something else? It's a loaded
That's a
question.
really
Can
interesting
you
question.
just educate me on Comfy AI? Is that the one that
Comfy
is
UI is the one that Alex has told us about, and he's I hope he doesn't mind me saying, he's like toyed around with it. It's where you can like do. Is it like you can do like pretty like if you do like a good grayscale block out and then you plug in a bunch of nodes and like you want it to look like a certain photo. So like let's say you've got a really great reference of a desert scene and then
yeah.
you plug it in and it will make that environment. It'll make your 3D block out really kind of look like that.
I
I
think
And
think.
do you do it
I think you
offline? Do you do it without a data
yes,
center? Right,
yeah. You
okay.
can
So you do
train
it
it
with your
on
own.
own work. Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
which is really interesting. I've been having a lot, especially with the PD I'm working with at the moment. We've been having a lot of discussions about, you know, AI. Where's it going to go? Um, I don't like the use of generative AI. But you know, I've said to him, you know, there's certain things and certain tools that you could have that would be really cool if you could train it. If you could train it offline and it was just on your own work, I probably would have a mess around with it. I don't think I'd be using it all the time because to me that just completely defeats the objective of the whole creative process. It doesn't. It just does not appeal to me. But I understand, and I've seen some of the tests Alex has done, and what he's using it, you know, to create stuff, and it's been pretty damned impressive. To, you know, it saves huge amounts of time. Even just doing something as simple as, you know, he's done a shot and he's gone, I need it from a different angle, and it's
Yeah,
bish
that's
bash
right.
bosh,
He
and you've
showed us
got it.
that.
Whereas, like, usually it would take you, you know, you'd have to reblock it out, move the cameras, move the lights, render stuff out, take it into Photoshop, you know, paint over it again, and there it is. It's done in seconds. Um, but yeah, it's a proper murky water. I mean, the thing is, the stuff is here. It's not going away. Um, I just really wish that the AI companies hadn't have been so backhanded, and if they'd have been upfront with everyone at the starting and saying, we'd like to use your 15 years of your art. Can we do this? We will pay you X amount of money to do this. I bet you there's a lot of people that would say, yeah, all right then, they'd take the money. But they didn't do that. They just went around and stole everyone's work. So I have a big problem with that, but I also have this thing that some of these tools actually are really, really handy, and they're really clever, and they could be tailor-made for you to use as an artist, as a tool. But it's not a be-all and end-all, and it shouldn't be a be-all and end-all. It's a bit like the way 3D is. We've gone I've gone from 2D and do predominantly now 3D, because I was having this conversation with my PD the other day, and it's because times have changed, and they want to be able to see assets. They want to be able to see them from different perspective viewpoints, different lighting, and so forth. And so it just makes so much more sense that I can actually build these physical things. We can change stuff on the fly. We can do whatever we want. But it's me creating it. I don't really want to have the input of millions and millions of other artists' work that's been stolen and a machine making it. That just doesn't appeal to me. I don't know. I mean, it's such muddy waters. It
Yeah,
really is.
I think we've already seen this isn't Comfy UI, but we've already seen as a pre-production tool, like people coming to us with, AI generated references and concepts, and that's forming a lot of their inspiration. I think it depends on the task. Like with my limited knowledge of Comfy UI, I can see larger scale stuff like environments or establishing shots, something like that becoming pretty useful. To depict like an overall mood and to depict, large scale scenes. But then I'm thinking about this on the fly, and I'm thinking about what I'm doing now, like fleshing out the interior of a spaceship. And it's like, I can't see how that would be useful, because like I've already, designed this thing in 3D. I can swing around very easily. I don't even need like a super polished render. And, the
Yeah.
production design might be, let's try that fabric in purple as opposed to green. It's like, I can just do that just as quick
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
AI would be able to do that. So I think it depends on the task. I can definitely, to reiterate what I said, I can see it, replacing some of the large scale environment stuff. But I think then when we start resolving things and people need our brains to flesh things out, I can't see it speeding up many of the things we already do at the moment, because we do use 3D quite heavily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd say, I think a lot of people don't realize production designers don't always want the most highly photographic, high finished image, because then the production will hold them to that image and say, this is what you've promised, this is what you need to achieve. Where in the past they would have had marker sketches and suggestive work, which means it's open to interpretation. And the set decorator is going to add something, the DOP will add something. So super high finish work is great for maybe selling a movie, but when you're in the trenches making a movie, I think it's less important, because then you are taking away other people's ability to add to the scene or the set.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great answer, I think. Like
Good
just
point.
that realization of what our job actually is. And like, I've seen it on probably nearly every job that I've been on is a kind of, you wait for the go ahead to produce a nice image. You've usually spent all these weeks before building something up. Like, then it always gets to the point for me anyway on most films is, okay, we're getting close. Like we're starting to hire, set designers and art directors, and we're crewing up. I'm going to need, a good looking image of this part of the room so that my set decorators can start to, figure things out, start buying things, start fleshing things out. So you're almost creating a beautiful reference for them later on in the project. But all
Yeah.
the heavy lifting and all of the work in progress drawings and sketching has been happening before that. And yeah, like the Comfy UI thing, again, like you said, Matt, it's not really happening with the production designers. This may be happening with, pitching when people are trying to
Yeah.
get funding for things. And a lot of that is already disappeared anyway since AI has come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else to add to that, fellas?
No, it's a proper murky, it's a proper murky world at the moment with that stuff. Um, I must say I've been really fortunate where I've hardly seen any of it on the jobs that I'm doing. Um, so maybe it's not taken hold as much as people think it's taken hold. Um, I don't see it getting used in any of the stuff that I've been privy to.
A good part of that question, just to finish this off, is which would become what do you think would become standard in art departments, like concept generation, design iteration, shot planning, or something else? Like if I had to double down on something and I think has to stay in there out of those is design iteration. I think
Hmm.
that's what a lot of our brains, you know,
Yeah,
are
I
relied
think
upon.
I wonder, especially with the Scorsese thing this week. I wonder if shot planning and shot iteration is going to AI will be used there super heavily because if a director is storyboarding on a plane on his way to the UK to set up a movie and he has a location and if he can on his laptop spin the camera and start planning shots then I that kind of makes sense to me. I mean, it's not great for storyboard guys, but I mean, it's not really storyboarding. So maybe shot planning, I can see that coming in. I mean, people are going to use it everywhere, is the bad news.
Yes.
Um, it's it's
Yeah,
just how much.
yeah. There's always going to be people that will take it to the extremes and you know use and abuse it. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. It's such a weird time at the moment. Um, I can't even predict what it's going to be like. I really can't. Um, and like I said before, I'm having these same discussions with the folks that I'm working with at the moment, and it's yeah, it's odd, really is odd. I can't say what it's going to be like. I can't even say what it's going to be like in 6 months' time because we just don't know. If all the legal
Yeah.
legislation comes through that could kill off
Mm.
all this in an instant, um, and then what do the AI bros do then? It's all
Well, the
the
great thing
little
is, if when these things go offline, we can keep working. If
yeah
if
yeah
there
yeah
if there's a fire at the data center and whatever goes down, if Midjourney goes down for a day or two, and we'll just keep working. That's quite exciting. If the
yeah
thought that you haven't needed it up to this point, and maybe you can dip in and use it, but we don't need it.
yeah
I can't see where. I mean, like I mentioned last time, I might use it to build a chair for when a set decorator sends you a picture of some furniture they found in a prop house, and you don't want to build this ornate chair, so you can just have a very like proxy model. That makes sense to me, but I don't need to do it. I can do it the old way if we need to.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a great point. Cool. I think we've given some pretty good answers there, guys. I just want to thank you both again. Like, yeah, you guys are always dropping so much valuable knowledge for everybody, and I know everybody gets a lot out of these answers. So I really appreciate both of your time, and yeah, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. So thanks, boys. Hopefully we can do it again soon.
Yeah, always fun.
Cheers, mate. Always a pleasure.
Good
See
to
you,
see you
boys.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.